Hello and welcome to CEO Studios Milestone 3 presentation on Psyche. For the team members, it's pretty much stayed the same since we've added Spencer Ham onto the team, and the roles have also stayed the same. So for the first bit of programming that I got done for this milestone is I got the gameplay ability system pretty much done, and I made it to where everything is easily editable in the details panel for any ability pickup actor that's out on the field. And you can switch things like icon display VFX, how it's used, and the type of ability it is. Right now we just have fire abilities, that being channeled, utility, and single cast. And for those animations, how they work through that is they work through a few blueprints that I have, but for specifically the channeled ability, since it's kind of three animations combined into one, I have it working through a state machine that kind of acts as a switchboard that tracks certain things between the gameplay ability system and the player character and gameplay tags as well. So those are the main things I got done. Moving into this video real quick, you can see that I show off in the details panel the different things that you can edit for the ability pickup actor out there on the left. And this is also something that can spawn from anything that we want that works the exact same as if it was out on the field. So I have it spawning off of killing a boss right now. And if you run it over it, it fills up the icon with the first free hotbar slot. And if you click that or hit the button that correlates with that hotbar slot, it'll use that ability. Right now, the animations and the VFX are placeholder, but as I showed the details panel, everything should be easy to change, and to change those animations will be through that state machine. And if you go over to kill this boss enemy that I have prototyped here, it drops that ability, and you can see the pickup actor that comes from it, and it fills up a new hotbar slot, the closest free one, and it uses a new ability that I set to be a different one as well. Going back to the presentation, the last little bit of programming I got done for this milestone has to do with movement and debugging. So I added support for the controller and all of the inputs that would work on the mouse and keyboard. For the most part, work on controller, minus a few things such as the gameplay ability system and the pause menu, which will be easy to add. And I also upgraded all the input actions to enhanced input actions as well. I also added twin stick movement to mouse and keyboard, so the player rotates to the mouse where it's located on the screen through a special object trace that I have tracing for an invisible plane on the screen. And I also did some debugging for the dodge rotation and the ability UI population. So the dodge rotation now, it dodges in the direction of the input that you're moving towards instead of where the mouse is looking at. So moving into this video really quick. In this video, you can see me using that twin stick movement I was talking about. And if I'm looking in one direction but moving in another, the player will always dodge in the direction that they are moving to. And here I switch to a controller, and all the inputs still work. So the dodge, the attack, the heavy attack, and the interactions also work as well. And if you hit A, you can also use the flask down there as well. Coming back to the presentation, I got some level design done for a dungeon boss map for the fire dungeon. I got a basic block out done. You can see in the bottom right there, in the top right, you can see an orthographic view that I made before moving into that block out as well. For the block out, I just got collision and size set with the boss fight that we want to do in mind. I don't have that boss fight structured out yet because that will be more of a next milestone thing, but I still made that collision and size in mind of all the stuff we want to do in that boss fight. And I pre-placed all the important structures, such as important fixtures for design and important fixtures for the actual boss fight, such as those turrets that will turn the map into more of a bullet hell later down the line. But that's pretty much all I got done for this, and I will pass it off to Oliver to go over sound effects.
On the audio side, we went less quantity of sounds and went for implementation. So this milestone is focused a lot on me implementing a lot of sounds. But for sounds that did get created, I focused on the portal and the chest. That's what I want to highlight in this presentation. These sounds were very difficult to create. I really love them, but it was a lot of mixing, a lot of effects, and a lot of distortion. The chest especially was difficult because these sounds were sounds that I had to accept that I could not make by hand, and I had to either use a sample or create from other sounds or from scratch and such. The portal sounds were incredibly difficult, mostly due to finding the correct vibe that I was going for. Overall, I wanted to do Taken from Destiny 2 as like a sort of vibe, and I'm really happy with how it came out. On the other side, the side that gets more focus, is implementation. The implementation side involves things that I added. So I added the pause menu, I added footsteps, I added the player characters' sounds, their sword swings, their grunts. And I also included our first enemy, the Mindling, their audio, their damage sounds, their death sounds. And for footsteps, I also created a material check with the help of our animator, who has a lot more experience than I do on that stuff. And so now it just, whenever there's a step by anyone, it'll check underneath the model what texture is based on the physical material that's set to it. And it'll play a sound, play a specific footstep sound based on that check. I'm very happy with how it came out. And that's all I got from my end. I'm going to move it on to our last section. Thanks for listening to this part.
Hi, this is Elle, and I'm going to go over the progress we've made in terms of design and like Jira stuff for this milestone. The first thing I want to talk about is I went and reorganized our Confluence and game design document. I've separated things out so that they are a little bit more accessible, and the GDD was getting really, really long, so I also separated up into different pages and linked them to each other, so that's been a quality of life thing. I also sat down and managed our milestone goals for the remaining few weeks of the semester. And then, as you can see here, I made some progress on our main menu, and I also worked on our loading screen. I've got the code working for it and some, basic things in there. And then this is kind of our, for the meantime, main menu design. Next, I was going to talk about the modeling updates and design updates that we have for the hub level. Joe is working on the progress for the Fireboss model, as well as he updated some of the portal designs. Now we have an animated, effect around each portal. They each have their own individual style. We've got a PNG image there to, make it look like there's something through the portal. I don't know how we're going to do that in the end, but currently that's what we have. And then I was going to talk about our next milestone goals for the end of the semester. Mainly, we're going to work on getting the gameplay loop done. That means, running from the tutorial to the hub world to the fire dungeon, defeating the boss, and heading back to the hub. We want that working. We also want a game over screen done, a loading screen, and then some of the basic mechanics and gameplay done. We're having some issues with some of our mechanics and movements and stuff, so we want to get those things, set in stone and playable and somewhat fun for the remainder of the semester. We're also going to finish up our menu and UI. We're going to make sure the PC, Mindling, and Boss all have good animations, and those are all done. And then try to get some basic VFX done before May, as well as implementing as much as we have done with our SFX as we can. But pretty much those are the last things that we're focused on to finish out the semester and reach those goals that we set at the beginning. So hopefully we get there. But that is pretty much it. If there's any questions, you can ask.